systems in procurement. In order to update CPD with the competency framework, obviously the blueprint, this falls into the risk management and then technical category. So if you look at that really when you update CPD afterwards, and then obviously look at that risk management, that will cover this presentation. Any questions? If you could just use your chat function again, like as normal, really, please. We don't want to try and disturb Dave during his presentation. So if there is anything there, what we'll do is we'll just, when the presentation finishes, we'll just go back through the chats, and then if there's any Q&A at the end of the presentation, we'll just look for any questions, and then hopefully we'll get the appropriate answer from there. And at the end of the presentation, if you want to stay behind, you're welcome for a chance to chat with the committee who's on today. We've got half a dozen of us. And then if you want to chance to network, as we call it. So we have gone through the new committee. We've got a new screen there. So we'll just introduce the people who are on today from the committee. I'm myself there in the middle of the box, Carl Tyndale. We have Peter Williams, who's with us today. Tony, who's our secretary, is on. William News already on at the moment, and we've got Clive Moss. So that is the new committee going forward for the Merseyside branch. The microsite and the website, you can find us on the usual bits when we've done the presentation in the two areas here. They've not been updated at the moment with the new committee, so if you can just hang on for a month or two, IOSH at HQ are doing a few bits and bats in the background, which hopefully everything will get posted back up on there. But keep the usual bits of, keep an eye out for LinkedIn, and then obviously the emails going through, and then you'll find out where our branch programs are and the next upcoming CPD events. The usual bit, we are recording this seminar. This will be available later on in terms of after the presentation's finished, if you want to go back and look at it from there. So if you're unhappy about that being recorded, you can actually switch the function off, or you can drop off if you like in terms of the presentation and then pick it up later. And the final presentation, the final slide is the Irish Benevolent Fund. I know we always put this up in terms of there, but it is out there if you need it. Something that I've learned a couple of months ago, really, if you go to Amazon and then click on that link that's on the right-hand side there and choose the Irish Benevolent Fund, you can actually pay a little percentage towards the Benevolent Fund through Amazon. So they're all relevant, really, in terms of inputting back to the Benevolent Fund. So any assistance that any members can do, we do have about 1,000 odd members in the branch, really. So if we do get 1,000 people using Amazon on a daily basis or whatever, it does add to the bits in terms of back to the Benevolent Fund. So I'd like to introduce Dave Ford if I can now. We've stopped slide. So Dave's going to take over the presentation for the next 30, 35 minutes and then talk about SSIP. So over to you, Dave.
Thanks, Carl. Thanks, everyone. It's a big difference for me being on the other side of the screen this time. So let's just see if we can get the technology. Is that come up okay, Carl? You're on silent, mate, yeah?
Yes, Dave, it's fine. Brilliant.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so as Carl said, my name's Dave Ford. I am a member of the Merseyside and Cheshire branch of IOSH, and as I say, it's really the other side of the fence for me today, because I'm normally on the other side watching somebody else give a presentation. My current role is the health and safety compliance lead with construction health and safety, better known as CHAS. I've been there for just under 12 months now, but prior to that, I've held senior position and headed up a health and safety team in one of the UK's major house builders in the UK. So I'd like to start off by thanking the committee and all the members who have logged on today for listening to me ramble on for the next 30, 35 minutes. So thank you. So what I'd like to do is really just set the tone of what we're going to be talking about, what we're going to be running through, because, you know, if you're a consultant or you've been involved in health and safety, at some stage, you will have been exposed to PQQs or SSIP and one of their members in relation to obtaining accreditation for one of your contractors or as a client. So what I'm really going to be doing is just a brief overview of the history of SSIP and where it's come from, where it was born and where it is today, because there's still a very active organisation managing and overseeing the members and certification bodies who offer accreditation services. We're going to look at the overview of the aims and objectives of the SSIP, and it's really easy, and it's really clear cut of what the aims and objectives are, and they were set out really back at the formulation stage with SSIP when they were set up. And then we're going to look at the evolution of accreditation schemes. So we'll talk about SSIP, touch on PAS 91, and also right up to date with the Common Assessment Scheme, which is probably better well known as CAS. So that's what we're going to be looking at. If you have got any questions, as we said at the start, please throw them into the chat box as we've done previously at the meetings, and we'll try and pick them up as we go towards the end. But there'll be plenty of time for questions at the end. So that's a brief overview of what I'll be running through today. If you've got any questions outside of what we're talking about, bring them up. If I haven't got the answer for them, I'll make sure that I go away and get them and feed them back to the committee so we can relay them to you. So what is the history around SSIP? Well, it dates back to around about 2009, in May in 2009, in fact. And there was a report set up by the government aimed at looking at accelerating the impact, or looking at the impacts on SMEs. And they were really looking at a number of areas, and one of those areas was through the procurement process. So the hoops, the forms, the documents that SMEs had to complete in order to get, in some cases, just get on the tender list with some of the clients that were out there. So in relation to SSIP, that's where the first discussions, or prior to 2009, that's where the discussion started. And even today, SSIP are supported by the Health and Safety Executive. And back in 2007, the initial meetings were held over in Bootle with HSE, with the aims to look at the pre-qualification and try and make it a lot less burden for SMEs to obtain what we call mutual recognition. It's also called deemed to satisfy between all the member schemes affiliated and associated with SSIP. SSIP themselves, they don't actually undertake any assessments or accreditations or verifications. They're the umbrella organisation that set the rules and bylaws. They set the training requirements for the assessors, and as I say, the rules that all the members and certificated bodies need to comply with, as well as audit process, to remain members of SSIP. And what we're looking to do is really, as I say, government backed, supported by HSE, and we're looking really to recognise each other's accreditation scheme and verifications where we can, and that's the core value of SSIP. So it's been around for a long time now. The current chair is a lady called Eleanor Eaton. She's been in position involved in SSIP for a while. She's actually one of the directors of CQMS, which is one of the organisations, and Eleanor is the current chair of SSIP. I'm not going to, take you guys on with this, because I know you will, the majority of you will know, if not everyone, will know where SSIP was born from. You know, the early stages of the CDM regs back in '94, as they evolved, it talked about stage 1 competency. So that's really, if you look at the dates from the initial conversations, 2007, meetings and the formulation in 2009 of SSIP, there's no surprise there that the core driver for this was the CDM regulations. And as we know, again, you will know this, if we look at what we're required to do from each stage and each of the duty holders, it's the key areas around what we used to call competency. I still refer to that, but it's better known nowadays as the skills, knowledge, experience, and capability of not just individual duty holders, but also the organisations as themselves. And that's what the key driver, the key solution to what SSIP members offer for clients and contractors, to be able to demonstrate that there is a baseline safety management system within the organisation. Again, you'll be aware of this, but we take it from the current version of CDM Regulation 2015. All of the duty holders must, absolute duty, have the skills, knowledge and experience, and if they're an organisation, the organisation capability necessary to fulfil the role that they're being appointed to undertake. And that's what we're looking to do at a really low level stage from SSIP. From a health and safety point of view, we are reviewing, or the members are reviewing, the safety management systems of those organisations. And it was really interesting. I was having an open chat with the committee just before we went live on this group, and you know, I'm not going to say consultants shouldn't do this. Everyone's out there to make a living. Ultimately, the driver should be people getting home safe and sound at the end of the working day. You know, if we look at Merseyside as an area, over the last couple of weeks, we've had some really horrific incidents, one after the other. And my view is, bits of paper, ultimately, you know, they won't stop those types of incidents occurring. But believe me, when they do occur, it's normally the first thing that the enforcement authorities will ask the questions around. Have you got safe systems of work? Have you got safety management systems? And really, by holding an SSIP accreditation, whichever member it is, will demonstrate a baseline entry safety management system. But what I would say for any consultants out there, please, you know, educate your clients on the safety management systems. It shouldn't just be a case of obtaining the accreditation, sticking it on the wall. Well, I can get access to work now, or I can get paid. If they're using it correctly, it will really benefit their business and potentially protect the business, and hopefully protect the people who work within the business. So that's where it came from, and the evolution there. As I say, you know, we look at the early stages of CDM, and that's where the core criteria for the stage 1 competency check first came into being. So in 2007, initial meetings were held up with the HSE, and 6 initial organisations who went on to become the founder members of SSIP, and they hold that same standing now. They held a meeting with HSE up in Bootle at the time to look at streamlining and cutting down the bureaucracy paperwork, which results in time, effort and money associated with SMEs having to complete PQQs or obtain accreditation requirements. And there they are. They were the 6 key players: Build UK, Chaz, Construction Line, Exor, SafeMark and the SSC Group. And what they done when they come out of that, they agreed that wherever possible, there would be mutual recognition or deemed to satisfy between all of those health and safety assessment schemes, as was at that point. Quite easy when there's 6, isn't it? If I was to say to you now, the numbers probably everyone from CBs, certificated bodies, to registered members, there's probably 75 different organisations attached to SSIP. So it's important that they follow the rules and bylaws, they follow the processes for assessment and accreditation for the core criteria of the question sets and beyond, and also comply with the audit requirements of SSIP. Now, in a previous life for me, I introduced an SSIP process within the organisation that I worked for. Now, before we introduced it, we used to do a lot of the PQQs, the competency checks. We've done it internally. We've done it as a health and safety team, assisted by the 14 regional commercial teams. And I can tell you there was a hell of a lot of paperwork produced, and it was very time consuming. So when I took the mantle of that organisation, one of the things I wanted to do is free up the time from the team, but also reduce the paperwork from other departments within the business, but also that of the supply chain that we would engage in, an immense number of contractors ranging at the time from Scotland down to the south coast. But one of the other areas that I had in my mind that I wouldn't want any of the team that I was working with involved with was the element of, in the event of a worst case scenario, that an enforcing authority came to the business and said to any of the individuals in the team that I was working with and heading up, how did you make that decision that that was a competent contractor? What was the basis? What were your KPIs? And back in 2013, that company at the time that were posed were around how we selected contractors associated with the project where the fatality occurred. We were able to demonstrate that. We told them about the previous system that we've done in-house and how it had migrated over the previous year to an SSIP organisation. And I've got to say, I'm not saying that every enforcement authority would ask this if they were investigating an incident, but it seemed to satisfy the questions that were posed at that time. So the key aim of SSIP, and as I say, it's really simple, and this is what it's about. It's to act, they act as the umbrella organisation. As I said earlier, they don't actually undertake any assessments or accreditations themselves. They set the rules and the governance model that all the members need to abide by. But the key driver is the mutual recognition and cross-recognition of each of the members. So what that means, you may have heard it called deemed to satisfy, is that all of the registered members and certificated bodies will recognise to a certain extent, and where possible, each other's accreditation scheme. So what that would, or what that should reduce, is a contractor having to complete full accreditation applications for the various members. They may need to supply some information, and one of those will definitely be the issuing organisation certification, and sometimes we require their insurance documents, but in most cases they will not have to go through the same process that they've already done. So we're cutting down the time, the burden, the paperwork having to be produced, and that's the key aim of what SSIP's driver is all about, as well as being one of the leading voices and organisations in advising other areas around health and safety question sets. So if you went onto the SSIP website, which anyone can do, and you can actually access the portal, which is a key element of the SSIP organisation, because that's where it holds all the information, data regarding to accredited organisations. If you go into the core criteria element, these are the key areas really that questions will be asked around health and safety for SSIP accreditation. So, you know, your health and safety policy organisation for health and safety, your arrangements accredited and aligned to your policy and how you implement them, where you obtain your competent advice from, what training and information do you supply to your employees and your self-employed? What are the individual's qualifications and experiences that you utilise both in-house and external? What are your monitoring, auditing and review processes within your business? And can you provide evidence around how you actually utilise it, how you implement it? How you engage with your workforce is another area that is contained within the core criteria, as well as what are your accident and incident reporting procedures and details associated with any enforcement action that may have come the way of the contractor. I also want to know how you onboard any subcontractors or third-party consultants within that may be there to support your business. And also, most definitely, we will want to see, not like to see, your risk assessment process and how that works and how it filters down to the people at risk, i.e. the people putting the shovel in the ground. Cooperation coordination is contained within the core criteria question set, as well as, if applicable, how welfare provisions are managed and dealt with, as well as eliminating hazards and risks. So that, if you look at it, really, that's the core criteria. What you will find from the various members, they will ask questions outside. I think currently it's something like 13 core questions, but there's going to be a couple more added into that by October this year, just to align that with the common assessment scheme. So if you look at that, they're questions I would suggest any organisation will be asking anyway. So they're not new, they're transparent. You can see the general core criteria if you wish to within the SSIP website, as well as the rules and bylaws as well, by the way. As I say, you can go to the website. You may have to register to utilise the portal to identify and check any of the accreditations of any of the accredited organisations or duty holders, key duty holders, because it's not just aimed at contractors. It's the accreditation elements for principal contractors, principal designers and designers. So there's an abundance of information in there for you to check. Pre-assessment checklists. There's information if anybody was interested in becoming an SSIP assessor on what the training requirements and the governance around that is, and also the retraining element. So, you know, it's worth having a look on there, just to have a little look around. And again, you can just Google that with SSIP and it'll take you to the homepage. Maybe worth a little look around to get some more information if you need to. So we talk about the the evolution of the accreditation schemes. And as such, SSIP solely deals with the health and safety element. And what we've seen over the years is the clients, the tier ones, really, they want to look at different areas of business risks, not just health and safety. Health and safety is the core element and the starting point with any of the accreditation schemes that are out there now, whether it be SSIP, whether it be PAS 91, whether it be the Common Assessment Standard. Health and safety is the core element, it's the starting point. But if you look at the evolution, organisations, companies, they really want to see more of the risk areas and how they are being managed and dealt with by their supply chain. So if we look at PAS 91, SSIP, solely health and safety. We evolved then to the PAS 91 standard, and that looks at a number of different areas, including health and safety, but also environmental, quality, financial, equality, modern slavery, and BIM. Now, some of these may not be applicable to certain contractors, and some of them will be, but it's taken the accreditation and the risk management to a next level. So they're not solely focusing on health and safety. But what we look to do at SSIP is align the question set through the core criteria to ensure that they're the best questions asked for any of the accreditation bodies that are out there now. So then we look at where we're up to currently with Common Assessment Standard. And really, we've got 12 key areas now, health and safety being at the core of it, as I said earlier. But we've got identity and what the the leaders of the organisation are. Have they had any issues historically? Have they been banned from holding director levels? So it's looking at different areas there. Financial, again, corporate professional standing, health and safety, the core value, environmental, quality, equality, corporate and social responsibility, information security, big issue now in the common world, in the modern world, building information modeling, again, BIM, if applicable, and anti-bribery and corruption, as well as modern slavery. So you can actually now get the feel for where a lot of the tier 1 organizations, and let's look at Common Assessment Standard. It's only recently been introduced, supported by Build UK and CISA. There are only 3 organizations who can accredit companies to the Common Assessment Standard, and CAS offers a new tier. So where a lot of the PAS 91 and the SSIP accreditation process will be a review of the safety management systems and the evidence that is submitted by the organisation, Common Assessment offers a 2-tier. They'll offer the desktop element, but they also offer what Chaz would call an assured element, a site-based element. So the way I put that across is it's doing what you say on the tin. So it's more of including an audit element is available through the Common Assessment Standard. And the key driver here as well, much like when SSIP was born, it's about sharing data. So if an organisation obtains an accreditation through one of the 3 current providers of the Common Assessment Standard, the data, should they wish it to be, will be shared through each one of those organisations via the Build UK portal. So if they wanted to obtain one of the other members' accreditations, because that was the driver from the client, the elements that they've obtained through the Common Assessment Standard would be visible through that data sharing element. So it's very much like the initial view of recognising other organisations' accreditations. I'm sure that there will be more than 3 providers of the Common Assessment Standard in the very near future. It's really about having the resources and expertise within their businesses to be able to provide the audit and check function behind the Jeffrey's having a little draw on the slides there. Behind each of the badges or the areas. And just to give you a bit of an insight, I mentioned 15 core criteria question set areas within SSIP. If I was to say within the Common Assessment Standard, there is around 250 questions across all of the 12 areas. But just to put you at ease, if you do hold an SSIP accreditation, that will basically remove you from needing to complete around 54 of the health and safety questions. So I think it really remains with 3 questions. So your SSIP accreditation is recognised by the Common Assessment Standard as it is with PAS 91. So it's really going beyond the realms of health and safety and looking at deeper dives around other areas of business risk within organisations. And the number of tier 1 contractors now specifying the Common Assessment Standard is growing by the week. I think there's around 11 or 12 tier 1s currently specifying that their supply chain must hold the Common Assessment Standard as their initial route to get on the tender lists. So as I said, I'm employed by Chaz, so I can't get away with without giving you a little bit of a background and a view on what Chaz do. Chaz, as you've seen from the earlier slides, were one of the founder members of the SSIP, and they were born out of Merton Borough Council. And if anyone remembers a guy called John Murphy, who used to drive Chas back in the early days, it was set up to manage the supply chain for Merton and the contractors that they engage with. And then obviously with the evolution of CDM and the likes, there was a view that as well as the government report, there was an opportunity to open up the Chas accreditation scheme to external organisations and clients, and that's where we've gone today. Chas was born in 2009, still going today. We have over 100 assessors available. We tend to turn around the accreditation process within a 48-hour period, and we offer the full suite from SSIP, PAS 91, and the Common Assessment Standard accreditations, as well as other sectors. We have accreditation standards that support the petrochem. We have accreditation standards that support the care sector, as well as others.
Dave, sorry to interrupt. Can you just reshare your PowerPoint, please?
Is that up? Is that up now?
Not yet, Dave, no.
No.
No?
Problem time to go to your share screen. Sorry, you just dropped out for a second, so we can't see PowerPoint.
Okay, just bear with me 1 second. So just as I say, just a little bit of history around Chas. Probably got about, within the organisations, about 125 people, ranging from assessors, BDMs to the membership team and sales team. And as I say, they were one of the founder members and supporters of SSIP when it was formed along with the others. So to align, the easiest way that I talk about the 3 core products available from Chas is, if you look at Chas Health and Safety, that aligns to the SSIP entry-level model of the core criteria. And then if you went to our most popular product, which is called the Premium Plus, that aligns to the PAS 91. So that's got the additional question sets and areas around the requirements of PAS 91. And then if you wanted the Common Assessment Standard, that is what's called our Premier. And as I say, we offer both elements, which is the desktop element and the assured, the site visit element associated with the Common Assessment Standard. We probably complete, we've probably got about 20,000 plus clients on our system. We support them with the management of their supply chain, and also around in excess of 75,000 contractors and CDM duty holders within the Chas family who've completed or are going through an accreditation process with us. So we do hold quite a large element of the market share from SSIP. In the most, we do the bulk of the SSIP assessments within the sector. So some of the contractor benefits that we have should a contractor come along and wish to join SSIP. We have a business shield product, which is a health and safety, and now only recently HR support line. So organisations can phone up fully qualified, competent health and safety and HR professionals and obtain advice on health and safety and HR related elements. We have an e-learning provider, third-party provider called Human Focus, and any members, accredited members of Chas can get discounted e-learning courses ranging from IOSH to ROSPA on hundreds of e-learning modules that are out there. We have a relationship with Marsh Commercial in relation to insurance. So Marsh can help contractors to obtain the best insurance quotes for their organisations and undertakings. Lightfoot is a member benefit that is out there that rewards safe driving. So it's a bit like a black box scheme kind of thing. It records how the operatives drive, links into a mobile device, and employees can reward their employees for safe driving. You get also members within CHAS, they would get 3 months free Checker Trade membership, and also access to ERAMS, which is an electronic risk assessment and method statement production system that we have in association with the ECA. We also have Powered Now, which is invoicing support. And also there's the option to take on board a fuel card service, which is a discounted fuel card service. And for the clients, the key driver for the clients who engage with CHAS to assist with their supply chain is really aside from the accreditation and verification of the supply chain to the level that they require, whether it be SSIP, PAS 91 or Common Assessment Standard, we have a search criteria for the clients. So they can put in a contractor name, they can list a trade, they can put a postcode or location, and they can do a search area to identify pre-accredited contractors that may be able to assist them in their search to increase their supply chain. Becomes really useful where clients branch out into different locations within the country that they've not moved into previously, and that's the key benefit for the clients. And just on a final point, and it's just something really I touched on a little bit earlier, that this was taken from a headline on an article in the Construction News last year, and I am a firm believer that health and safety shouldn't be about the paperwork. You know, you can't drive health and safety from behind a desk. But as I said earlier, unfortunately, when things go wrong and organisations, enforcement authority, police, HSE, Environment Agency are asking questions, it will be the bits of paper that they will be asking for initially in most cases. So for the consultants out there, please, by all means, assist your contractors, but please educate them in the benefits of the systems and what it actually brings to them, and the benefits that it can bring to those organisations. And again, something that Carl made a point before we come online, if a contractor is utilising their safety management systems to the best of the potential, the renewal process, which in most cases, unless it's a certification body, which is annually for SSIP, if you're using your systems, the renewal process should really be a doddle. It should be a breeze for you to get through. At CHAS, we have a customer care team who help if they phone up and guide and direct any of the contractors or clients or the supply chain in making sure that they can meet the core criteria or the criteria of any of the other schemes or products that we offer within CHAS. So get involved as consultants. It's not just produce a bit of paper, get out there and away you go. Make sure you educate your contractors on what they do, what the benefits are of these safety management systems. And ultimately, we're looking to improve businesses and make sure people go home safe and sound at the end of the night. And I think, open to questions, Carl.
Yeah, I don't, for a change, Dave, I don't think we've got any questions, unfortunately. Nobody's in the chat box. So, yes, I mean, there's 50 odd people on there. So I'll be quite happy to open up to the room, really, if anybody wants to come off mute and chat today, if you got anything, if you didn't want to type anything in. One thing that got me about this new common assessment standard really is when you look at businesses now and then you look at policies or you look at procedures away from health and safety, you know, you look at this the usual standard of like ISO 45001, 9000 and 14,000. When you look at that common standard now, there's a lot more out there with a view to the you know, financials and almost like even if you like policies within policies, isn't it, really? So, you know, when we look at it from a health and safety point of view, from an accreditation date, it's normally a bit like you'll have a health and safety policy. That's your starting point, really. Do you think really that businesses should have a policy for all them other associated things with them common assessment standard as a starting point? In terms
Well,
of follow-up?
you're quite right, Carl. Your starting point in any case that we would say, and IOSH would stipulate, is your health and safety, and all of the organisations stipulate that your starting point is the health and safety modules associated with them. And why shouldn't it be? Because it will be recognised in each of those other schemes. But I think the key word is proportionally. So there will be organisations out there who won't need modern slavery statements. And common assessment standard really recognise that. So if you are what they call a micro business, so smaller, it's based on your turnover. If you fall into the micro business category, a lot of it won't be applicable to you as an organisation. They will identify that, they will recognise that those areas. But you know, this is about making organisations better, not just in health and safety, it's other risk areas. You know, and I'll use the information security, similar to the sentencing guidelines, really based on your turnover. If you have a data leak within your business, so there are some big organised construction organisations out there who hold a lot of data. So why wouldn't their clients want to have some assurance that they've got relevant data security or other elements associated with CAS in place?
I think it's having a procedure for a rainy day, isn't it, really? Because the way I look at some organisations, if you are like micro, obviously, if you look at employees, less than 5 employees, you don't know how to write down risk assessment. And in theory, you don't have a health and safety policy. And I think that's where sometimes I've seen businesses where they are 2 or 3 people, they are a limited business, they're starting on their little health and safety journey. And when they go for these accreditation schemes, it's very overwhelming with them. And then the first thing that I've seen in the past is, oh, can I see an equality and diversity policy? Well, there's only 2 of them in the business. Why do you need a policy for that when it's in the main health and safety policy? So I'm a little bit sat on the fence sometimes with these standards, really, because I think it all proportionate to the size of the business. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have, you know, if you are less than 5 employees, you shouldn't really have a big paperwork-based system, you know, just to satisfy and tick a box from an accreditation point of view, which we've seen very recently, where it should be really a case of there should be a policy in the background there just to cover the business based on its actual risk profile at the time, isn't it? Its size, and then
absolutely
as you go.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's where CAS is, well, SSIP as well, because there's a slightly different question set between more than 5, less than 5. And, you know, we're all aware of the legal obligations from a health and safety standpoint on organisations of those sizes. But CAS have really looked at that and they differentiate it between the micro businesses and the businesses outside that micro scope. So it's a proportional review. It may well be if it's a 2-man band and the classed as a micro, that would definitely be looked at, and it would be, you know, at this point you may not need it. Yeah. But in the future, if you grow or as you grow, there's a good case that you will need to look at that. And I think going back to you know, when I said I mentioned about the HR, the business shield elements associated with CHAS, you know, you've been through it yourself, Carl, a lot of the members here. From an SSIP standpoint, it doesn't have to be frightening. Go into the SSIP website, download the checklist, and it'll, you know, you can prepare yourself before you actually take the journey, and you can get all your safety management systems. The good thing with CAS is in the help boxes, it actually sends you off to different locations where you can get information and model policies, etc., etc. So it's not just answer this question and crack on. You're left to it. There's some really good help advice within the help text and the help columns within the Common Assessment Standard.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly find
questions, Carl. Sorry, I've got some people who have sent me questions and I was on
sorry,
mute.
Tony, right?
Sorry, I apologise. Dave, that was really interesting. From our side, we are part of a local authority, and the question is really local authority based. The emphasis was on CDM. What if it's a term contractor, you know, an electrician, they're going around doing maintenance work, etc.? will SSIP look at that sort of thing? And what if it's outside the bounds of construction? Where do you go then? Do you go back to the pre-qualification questionnaire and the local authorities who are outsourcing all the time? You've got social care and people like that. So if you have a contractor's policy, is SSIP sufficient to take you outside the CDM, to take you outside construction?
Tony, I mean, what I'd say there from a CHAS point of view, we're solely owned by a local authority. Right. They're our sole shareholder, and that's where CHAS was born. Yeah, is the answer. So I briefly went through the core criteria, those questions that those areas around the questions that you'll see. There will be other questions that are required. Let's not forget the definition of construction work within CDM. So you talk about your term, your facility management, your maintenance, all that will fall under the definition and term of CDM. So you, as a client, you will need to ensure you've done your due diligence around your checks of your supply chain that you're engaging.
Okay. And outside construction, we're talking about other contractors now, because as you say, local authority deals with education, schools, employ contractors, adult social care and all those things. Is that outside the bounds of SSIP?
Yeah, the majority of that is. What I would say from a CHAS point of view, without stealing the thunder and saying too much about it, we are looking at other areas. I mentioned before about the social care element and accreditation that CHAS offer. And believe me, in my 11 months with CHAS, we are now looking at entering different areas outside what we're currently looking at, but also outside of construction, power, offshore, rail. There's a lot of stuff that we're looking at.
What's the different levels of contractor assessment between a small contractor with less than 5 employees to your multinationals? So does it go in more depth with the bigger the company, etc.?
Yeah, definitely.
It's for asking that because, if we employ a contractor and they put something incorrect on, so they don't get that level of scrutiny, and yet they're coming in and doing work for us, it still falls on us as the client, doesn't it? Ultimately,
it does. It does. You can't migrate your legal obligations as a client, as we all know. But yeah, it's through each of the question sets, the schemes from SSIP, PAS 91, right the way up to Common Assessment Standard. There is the difference between what we'll call it more than 5, less than 5 scenario. So the assessors, that's part of the training requirements and the rules and bylaws for the assessors. They're instructed, and bearing in mind they've got to hold a health and safety qualification. So even an entry level health and safety qualification talks about the difference of legal obligations for more than and less than 5. They're taken through that, so that is taken on board through any of the accreditation processes, Tony.
Okay. I'm just checking. I've cut and pasted them onto a piece of paper, so I need to. What's tier 1 and what are the other tiers? Is another question.
Yeah, that's a great question. That comes up from our BDMs all the time. So if you look at your tier 1s, you're probably looking at your Balfour BTs, your Wilmot Dixons and the likes of them. It's really the Waits construction, their definition, and I'm sure there is a better definition of what a tier 1 is. It based on their size, their turnover, but to name a few, they're the ones I would put within the box of a tier 1 contract. There, your Balfour BTs, your Wilmot Dixon, your Waits construction, the likes of those.
So what you're more or less saying is that if you have a contractor's policy that you go through SSIP or whatever in the first instance, and then it's the client's responsibility or the commissioner's responsibility to monitor them, to make sure what they're doing is in the tin. So you help with the initial commissioning side, and then it's down to the client person. And as long as you go through that process, you just don't let the contractor get on with it without doing that monitoring. That will be sufficient for the HSE.
Yeah, I wouldn't always nail it on to say would that be sufficient for the HSE.
Oh, just say yes.
No, I won't say yes. I'll say no. But what I'd say is really from a client's perspective, you need to identify you know, what level of accreditation you want your supply chain to have.
Yes.
Whether it's, you know, whether you want to align to a tier 1, whether you want to look at the lower end or the starting point, which is SSIP, you need to look at what elements are important for your business. If it's solely health and safety, you start off with your SSIP. If you want to look at those different risk areas, then you've got to look at the PAS 91 or the Common Assessment Standard. Going back to your point about HSE, you know, if we all knew the questions HSE would ask when they come knocking on a door, you know, we'd all have the answers. Unfortunately, the questions they ask do differ slightly.
Yeah, we went to a presentation with the HSE, and they said the common thing for commissioners was firms who just copy and paste stuff across, and it has no bearing on the firm that it relates to. Now, are we confident that SSIP will pick this up and Chaz will pick this up? Because
yeah,
they will come back to the commissioner in the first instance, won't it?
Yeah. One of the frustrations I think contractors have when they go through the SSIP or any of the, well, start with SSIP, is if an assessor goes back to them and says, you've given us a blank document, we want to see it filled in and used. Yeah. So, you know, we don't want to see a blank toolbox talk. We want to see a toolbox talk with signatures on and what the talk was about. And then what we do, we cross-check against the training records to make sure that the names that are on the toolbox talk are the names that are on their training records. So we do as much as we can, Tony, to carry out those checks from an SSIP point of view. And that's a requirement of the rules and bylaws.
Okay. All right, then. Thank you. You've got the job, by the way, Dave.
Oh, thank you. Well, listen, just on one final point I'd like to mention to everyone on the call today. Now and again, there is some dialogue from consultants and others to say that SSIP becomes a blocker. Contractors can't get paid because their SSIP accreditation has expired, or an element of their accreditation if they hold other elements of insurance or what has expired. I just want to clarify, SSIP cannot withhold payment, because the only payment the organisations take is for the accreditation service. Now, as we know under the Construction Act, clients should not be withholding payment to the supply chain. We know there are a few who are better than others without going into the nitty gritty, but I just wanted to clarify to everyone that SSIP have actually stipulated and put a statement out that payment or not holding an SSIP should not be used as a reason for non-payment.
Carl, I'll hand it back to you.
Yeah, sorry, I'm back, Tony. Thanks, Dave. Very informative section, to be honest. I think if we can summarise then and finish off and say thank you very much to Dave for that one, really. We are going to draw the meeting to a close now, and then we'll jump onto our committee meeting. So we do the usual bit at 3 o'clock, or now, really, if you want to stick around and do the networking session with either the committee. I'm sure Dave will stay on for a little while before he shoots off back to his normal day job. And then, if you like, you can speak to the committee about any issues you've got or anything like that, or just have some general chit chat. And then after that, we'll close the day and have our committee meeting for any upcoming events. So thanks, Dave. Paul, do you want to kick back in?
Yes. Hi, everybody. Yes, do feel free to stick around. We're online for a little bit longer, so feel free to do that. It's space now for you to network. If anybody's got anything, any burning questions you've got of the committee or of each other, or something you want to raise, then please feel free to unmute yourself and share that with us.
Dave, there's some good positive feedback coming back to you as well, really, from the chat box, if you want to see that, really. So thanks again. All right. I don't know if anybody wants to speak, Paul. It's very quiet today, isn't it?
Really not.
there's just one point. I don't know that anyone's out there. They know there's a groundworks contractor based in the Stockport area, and they're looking to recruit a health and safety person within their organisation. So if anyone knows of anyone who may be interested in having a conversation with this contractor, by all means, get in touch with me via Carl or whatever, or via LinkedIn, and I'll put them in touch with the contractor.
Which level is it at, Dave? Is it advisor level or manager level?
I would guess it's probably in between, really. I think
Okay.
the such a size of outfit, it'd be more like a manager role, but out there getting your boots dirty as well, Carl.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. I don't think there's any other questions, then, is there?
Well, if everybody's asked their questions and if they're happy to stay, well, we're happy to conclude the meeting, and thank you once again for taking the time to join us today. So last calls for any questions of the committee? No?
The only thing I've got there, Paul.
Michael, you got your hand up. Come on. That's okay.
If I can ask a question, please, of David. Thank you for the presentation. It was very informative. What I wanted to sort of ask, I know, and it's something that Tony crossed on as well when he was talking about his particular situation about pre-qualification questionnaires, is that I'm not asking this question based on my own organisation, but there's always a fear that you're going to come across or inadvertently appoint a contractor that's had a serious prosecution and a serious issue that's gone on before in the past. But then, hold on a minute, they've got all of these new accreditations and going forward, and they've rebranded themselves, but you completely, there's nothing worse than if you find something out from somebody outside your organization. You're not using that contractor, are you? You're not using that particular company, are you? And it's whether all of the SSIPs and all of the improvements that are being made, it might make clients step back from what they would normally, their own interrogation of what contractors do. They might step back because they say, well, Chaz and Paz and everybody, they're doing it all for us. I mean, would it capture something like that, David? I mean, we're talking about something which is a serious incident. I mean, if a contractor's had some type of notice served, and it shouldn't be like life ending, but if a contractor's had a serious prosecution and something terrible has happened, it's like the equivalent of letting somebody that's had a 3-year driving ban just go straight back in and get on with it. So
Big question. Yeah, really great question. Now, what I'd say is when I implemented an SSIP process within the organisation I used to work with, it was one of the questions I raised. What happens if an organisation identifies that they've had an enforcement action, they've had a prosecution, or they've had a fatality? Now, what I would say there, Michael, you probably agree with me, that some of the best companies in the country will have accidents. They will have incidents. Some of them have the worst case incidents. As I said earlier, Liverpool has seen some horrific incidents in the last couple of weeks. And they would be, some of them I would class as tier 1 contractors, really good systems, processes, and history. That doesn't mean that you can't have an SSIP accreditation. You can have, this is my personal opinion, you can have the best safety management systems in the world. Doesn't make you a great contractor, a good contractor, not necessarily. You could be a really good contractor and have an incident, a prosecution, enforcement notice, FFI, etc. It just could be that moment in time that it occurs. What's important from an SSIP point of view is that you disclose it, that you've had the incident, but more importantly, what you've changed within your organisation to try and prevent that incident from happening again. We would be looking for how you do that. I think one of the comments jumped up before. What I used to do when we were doing the PQQs internally, I would check the HSE enforcement and prosecution database. And I'll be totally honest with you, a couple of times I identified contractors who didn't disclose that on our internal PQQs. And that led to other conversations, to the point of on one occasions, they were just, one was a mistake, And the other one, it was right. Well, because you're not disclosed it, what else can we take as dishonesty on the PQQ process? And they were off the tender list. SSIP understand that. They will do the checks as much as they can, and those checks really, Michael, will be the same checks that you and me could undertake.
Yeah.
I would say when I've looked to recruit people in the past, I'm quite lucky to have quite an immense network within the sector, and I'll reach out and speak to the people I know and trust, and I would say, what do you think of this individual, blah blah blah, and then take a view on that. Very similar to contractors, around the northwest area, we probably all know the same contractors, don't we? So I think we've got to do the due diligence, and one of the question sets is around enforcement, fatalities, incidents, etc. Not necessarily blows it out the water, but more importantly, we want to see if they've had an incident, what they've done to try and stop it again. And it's only the same situation that in the worst case scenario, I was involved in a workplace fatality that dragged on for 5 years. And in our mitigation, in summing up, we had to put in place what we'd put in place as an organisation since the incident happened in the outset in 2013. So we can't fully cover it from SSIP, but it's definitely something that's covered, Michael.
Yeah. Like it's something like, sorry, it's just a final comment. When you read the first few pages of the IOSH journal, and they always have the in-court analysis, and you read about contractors, sometimes, unfortunately, it's around London, and where there's, sorry, I know this happens all over the UK, but there just seems to be a concentration of where there's a foreign or a migrant worker, and they're just presented with a form, sign there, get up on the scaffold, and suddenly there's a fatality. It's that type of contractor that does not care. That doesn't care.
Yeah, and I'd probably say that contractor doesn't have an SSIP accreditation.
That clearly don't care, and that's the type of thing that I'd like SSIP, PARS, or the Common Assessment Standard to be able to capture. Not necessarily from what you said about the Tier 1 contractor. I understand what what you're saying, and it's just because some of those Tier 1 contractors, I don't know, they could be working on the next Channel Tunnel or something like that, and it's just like it just happens. It's unfortunate, but it's those really, like you're reading the first few pages of the in-court analysis of the IOSH journal, and sometimes like you read a couple of paragraphs and you don't want to go on anymore. It's actually like really, really upsetting, because, and it's those contractors that really I think I would want to really know about that aren't getting through the net.
Yeah, and Carl will tell you, Michael, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and we share articles and we'll send notes to each other on things that have gone up in the Northwest. And I will honestly say some of the prosecutions and penalties measured against the description of what's gone on. All I can say is some of those organisations must have been really low turnover organisations.
I think, like you say, David, I think even within an SSIP accreditations, they do tick a box and they give the company a baseline of health and safety, competence and management. But there's still a long way to go with, even though you look at most court cases there, and really, that company might have an accreditation, but there's lots such. It's a gamble, isn't it? Really, everything. You've got so much involved with, work time pressures. You've got cost-cutting exercises. You've got clients. You've got weekend working. You've got incompetent people, incompetent managers. Lack of safe systems of work. Even though we do put accreditations in place with a lot of companies, and there's a lot of due diligence done down the supply chain, it still comes down to what you pay for. That's the sole responsibility. I think really a lot of these accidents could be with a view to it's choosing the investment in terms of the money. They could be the small sites, but even the big guys get it wrong, don't they? You know what I mean? But they have got extra resources in place, really, and it is still back to the Billy basics of common sense. And that's what accreditations are all about, to prove to somebody that you've got some competence. And then, but really, it doesn't always satisfy the fact that if you did have an accreditation, that'll stop the accident happening. Accidents do happen, don't they? Prosecutions happen.
Definitely. And I mean, slight aside to that, the situation I was involved with, and the one thing that frustrated me towards the end was, I was the sole defence witness in that situation. Nobody else within the business was spoken to. Okay. And I think you know, had other senior management's been questioned on resources and programs, I think that probably would have had more of an impact in the business than me being the only person who stood up in the dock to give evidence in defence of the organisation.
One final question, that's all right, and then we'll draw it to close. Mark's just asked a question really on the chat box. What are your thoughts about contractor engaging a consultant to apply for the accreditations? It's always been a bit of a selling point really of the external consultant getting the accreditation and getting the person on board. What's your thoughts on it, Dave?
Yeah, it goes back to that comment before. You know, there's room out there for everyone. We've got plans at Chas to try and bring in an alumni of consultants on board to be involved with any question set changes or developments going forward. It's something we're working on. But all I'd say is, by all means, go out there, work with the contractors, but educate them in what those forms should be doing. Because you know, the cut and paste, I think somebody said before, that's the one that grind on me. You know, you pick up a RAMS document and it's got another contractor's name on the inside of it, on the cut and paste. But yeah, listen, I'm not against it, but do it the right way. Just do it the right way.
I think we'll draw it to an end there, Dave, and thanks very much again for presentation. Paul, do you want to, should we look at the committee meeting now then going forward, I think, really, with everybody?
Yep.
Okay.
And thanks, everybody. Obviously, if the committee want to just stay on the call, that's fine. If you want to just turn your cameras off or grab a quick drink, 5 minutes, we'll stay on the call. But for everybody else, if you just want to log out now, and thanks again, and look forward to seeing you on the next call. And thanks again, Dave. Much appreciated. Really excellent session. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Take care. See you soon, Carl.
Cheers,
Bye-bye,
Dave.
guys.
Much appreciated.
Tak.
Very good, chaps. Everybody, listen. Well, I think we're all there, aren't we?
We're doing. How'd you find it? All right. Good presentation.
That was interesting, that. For me, it was, because I'm working on the contractors policy.
Very good. I'm sorry for the interruption with these slides. Somebody had managed to start annotating on the screen. So I tried to disable it. So when I disabled it, I ended up kind of stopping the share while I was trying to get rid of it. So then I had to ask Dave to reshare. So sorry about that, everybody. So I interrupted it. It's very slightly. I felt like I'd thrown him a little bit in the middle of it. It's just unfortunate. So apologies there. But I couldn't disable the annotation on the screen without losing the screen first. So. These things tend to challenge us. They do. Shall we make a start? Steve's with us as well, aren't you, Steve? Hi, Steve. Are you with us? And he joined a little bit later into the meeting. But
yes, Steve. I'm here.
Hi, Steve. Okay.
I was running around doing other things.
No problem. Just making sure you're with us. So thanks very much. So Tony, you're going to take us through the part of it.
I think the first thing on the agenda really is the coordinator's job, and Joe's not here. I can never get the gallery.
No, Joe's not. No, Joe's not with us.
She's not joined us. She said she might be able to. And basically, I summarised it on what Joe told me, unless you've got something else to say, Paul. Joe's been with us for years. She's part of the National Council. She's been excellent for us, Joe. And I think people who knew her, who's on the current committee, will agree with that. She's been really good. But for a variety of reasons, she's having to resign, which leaves us with a gap of a communications coordinator's post. And it's about communications. Obviously, we've got to promote this, our meetings. And our meetings are now running at once a fortnight or, 2 a month. depending on the length of days, etc. It's not an easy task. You've got to re-communicate any IOSH stuff coming down. So it's just generally the communication stuff. And I won't exaggerate, but I won't say it's an easy job, but it can be quite time consuming, a bit like mine with the secretary's job. So I'm just wondering, is anyone not part of the executive committee now or part of the main council wondering, showing an interest in this type of work to be the communications coordinator? And do you know what? At this stage, we'll have to push 5 people back and leave 1 standing, won't we? You know.
Tony, if you're struggling, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll if nobody volunteers for it, I'll try and help out in the background because I've done that before now. Sure, I can do something in the background to either babysit the role or take that role going forward. But I'd certainly open up to the new members. Really, I'm always about helping out where we can, really. But certainly, if any of the new members want to jump in and sort of take on the role, I'll be more than happy to vouch for somebody there and take a back step.
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, obviously the comms coordinator is a key role within the committee. I mean, that's why it's been promoted to be one of the principal officers' roles. So it is a key part of that. There will be some additional support coming for anybody who's interested as well, in terms of, we have, like I mentioned previously, we've got an induction for all committee members that everybody will need to go through, but there'll be some specifics for those particular roles as well. So treasurer, secretary, etc., and the comms role as well. So we will have that support there, and we will bring the other coordinators together from across the region to provide some support, because there are some other experienced comms coordinators there that I think could help with how you go about those. But ultimately, like Tony's saying, really, it is essentially making sure we're getting some good visibility on the branch programme, making sure the mailers are going out to the members, and then coordinating with social media as well. So yeah, it's an exciting role, but it is a key role. It won't go back out to election. I think we can just bring somebody forward from within the committee who can assume the role and do the duties, but as I say, they won't automatically get the formal title through the election as we've done previously. But do you want to maybe just throw that back out to the committee at another point, Tony, rather than, because not everyone's with us today, are they? And we have got quite a large committee, haven't we? So
yeah, we have got, and I've sent an email out, and I'll send one more email out, and if no one comes forward, I mean, Carl, have you got the work capacity to do it?
I'll find something. Yeah, it's fine. I'm working at home at the moment. We're out and about, but I'll always find time for it. So, I mean, I'll have a chat with Joe in the background, just see how many hours a week it takes her really to do it though. So let me have that chat with her just to scope it out. And if she says like, half day a week, I'll try and I'll have to fathom it out. But if it's only like half an hour, you know me, I'm always on LinkedIn and stuff with people. So quite happy to promote all that. And then I do promote the branches going forward. And if it's just that, then really, I'll have a go at it. But put it out. Let me speak to Joe. Send an email out to everybody there, and I'll be the backstop if that's okay with you, and I'll jump on with you in terms of that. But if somebody's better than me at doing it, or I'm just the one who will. Let me speak to Joe. If it takes quite a bit of time, I might struggle. But if she says just it's
I wouldn't say it was particularly onerous, really. And remember, it's a coordinator role. Everybody on the committee is responsible for making sure we promote and establish and set up the meeting too. This is just about coordinating some of those comms. Don't think of it as being too onerous. It is.
Oh
really
no, it's fine. It's all right. Don't I'm not putting me off. I mean, let's speak to Joe about it. I'll speak to him in background. Then,
okay. Yeah, I mean, anybody else, obviously.
Yeah, put it out about the committee, Tony, and then let's just when we get to the next committee meeting, there we'll decide who's doing what, if that's okay with you.
Thanks, Carl. Thank you very much.
All right, no worries.
Okay, so I'm just looking down the list of the actions. Michelle. We need to know about the next meeting with our tree fella, who's Michelle. Have we had the Zoom form for that yet, Paul?
Not seen the Zoom form. I've set it up. Yeah, well, I haven't. What was the date for that one, Carl?
So we're talking about 22nd of June.
No, I've not had a form for it. I mean, obviously, once I get that, remember as well, the form, we want to use that as the one-stop shop for all things when it comes to setting up meetings. So we need all the detail we can on that form and getting it through to us, including making sure we get networks copied in. And then I can then set it up on the portal. I can then forward that back out for you as confirmation that that meeting is now up and running. And that's when we need to sweep in behind with the promotions, getting it out to members through committee mailer, making sure we get it in Connect Diary on the website, and then out through social media. So yeah, we do need that ASAP really.
Will IOSH help us with the committee mailer?
Well, ultimately, the admin team do send it out. All we need to do is access in the portal. Is just to do the write up of what the event is about, and that's where you're best placed, because you'll know the details about who is presenting and how it fits in, and that sort of detail. That's the stuff that needs to go into the portal, and then the admin team will send it for you.
Okay.
But yeah, the forms, if they can have the forms at least a couple of weeks before, because otherwise we are really pushed in terms of trying to get numbers through the door if we don't have a good lead-in time. So if I can have those forms 2 weeks in advance to get everything set up, then that should give us time to get some good promotions behind it.
Okay. I'll chase up with Michelle then about
Thanks,
that.
Tony.
I'm just wondering from the committee side if there's any problems with our tree presenter. I don't know how to describe him, arborist or whatever. Is it worth having a sole committee meeting just to go through stuff, etc., for the next meeting?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. All new members to send photographs to myself. I've had the majority now, and you've seen them there. What we tend to do for the networking session is put the photograph up and align your particular skill area to the photograph. So as part of the networking, if they want to ask about education, they can go to Steve, safety and education, FM, they could go to Clive, etc. And that's what we're looking at, you know, that type of thing, just to promote our particular areas. Peter from the mentoring side, from the interview mentoring side. So people can come to us during the networking session, etc. And we can promote the committee that way. If you haven't already done so, which I think the majority have now, I'll chase the others up. Can you send me that? Update the website. Paul, what's happening with the website? And when we come back, we'll have to have name badges and all kinds, won't we? Subject to IOSH having the funds to actually provide us with name badges.
Well, we'll have to. Yeah, that's. I haven't spoken to them about that yet. I mean, in terms of the website, everything is down until the 21st of June in order to have the implementation for the new CRM system. So once we're at the end of that period, then I will send through all of the updated information you've got for the microsite. So if there is anything that you want the microsite to have, or any changes there, happy to follow those up for you and get those sorted. But yeah, 21st. That does include meetings at the moment as well. We're not being able to get the meetings onto the website, so they've basically got a bit of a content freeze till the 21st.
And the next one was something, Peter, you put forwards about higher education with David Thurston.
Yeah.
I'll just go on to this. This is the program, etc. What will that be about, Peter? Is it about safety within colleges, or?
Yes, and the extension beyond that, because I know he does a lot of youth work, whether it's attached to the college or not. So I know he goes scrambling up cliffs and things like that.
Oh, right. They call that learning outside the classroom.
It does, yes.
So do we want him around October? Is that one of the dates in
yes,
October?
okay. Give me a date and I'll bounce it off and see what happens.
12th of October?
12th?
Yeah.
David Thurston. Okay, I will send him a message post haste.
Okie dokie. I'm just looking, Leslie and Will, you put some excellent ideas, and what we do is we have this box here for future suggestions.
Oh, right.
So if what we need is, have you given any thought, or anyone given any thought to anything that you think will be valuable to promote, and who could deliver that, because it's one thing coming up with the ideas, it's another thing to actually sort of say someone who's going to do the presentation, who's got those skills to do the presentation, as we just seen with David. Leslie, well, have you got any ideas?
Yeah, I've got a few. Unfortunately for me, most of the work we do and the people we engage with are all more or less coal-faced people.
Yeah.
Which is obviously, as Dave was saying before, it's boots on the ground, changing people's perceptions out on the job. Even though myself and my team do a lot of background work, such as auditing and other things, mainly most of the people we deal with all sort of operate in our high-risk industry, fire services, asbestos removal experts, so all them sort of people that we deal with every day. But I'm pretty sure some of them from other parts that we deal with would be more than happy to showcase their skills and talents and share them with everybody.
Do you outsource, for the likes of asbestos? Do you bring in specialist companies? Because I know they're always.
Yeah, well, we use a couple of companies. We have a variety of registered asbestos removal companies, but basically, all our guys, all my team, are all obviously asbestos awareness as a minimum, asbestos management trained. So we come across a lot of it because of the older vessels we deal with, such as calf gaskets and asbestos containing board and mill paper and fire cladding, and so it is sort of something that we deal with. We use predominantly at the moment, we use a company, I'll say the name, called APEC, who do our background environmental monitoring and sample analysis for us, and we use a specialist removal firm, Rodar, to come and remove any identified asbestos. Once we've cordoned off all the area, they'll come and do all their stuff. So it is quite tricky because it's very, very hard to identify in some of the vessels because they're not always forthcoming with asbestos registers. And so a lot of the time with us, we could accidentally uncover it. And so we're trying to shut the stable door before the horse is gone. Sorry. So yeah, we do use a couple like that. So I can always ask around. We do also have trainers as well that come on site from MPAWS accredited trainers, IPATH trainers that come and supply us with accredited training for different things, forklifts, confined space, etc., working at height. So yeah, we do get a lot of diverse people coming through the doors. Like my own, the guy I report directly to, my own director, a guy called Kevin Peart. He comes from, he works for our sister company A&P, and he's just had adopted and accepted a IOSH training program along the lines of the IOSH managing safely, but it's for shipping. So I can always ask around. I'm sure I could do something.
Be interesting. Yeah. Okay. If you think of someone, what we do is we think of the subject, we align it to our competency framework. Where does it sit within our competency framework? As you can see, what we deliver is around risk management and technical, and we can go out there. I was really interested when you said changing people's perceptions, because that's key to everything, isn't it? And with COVID, we're changing people's perceptions towards health and safety as we speak now. So that could, how you do that, that would be absolutely brilliant, because that will be around the behavioural side.
The HSE helped us change our perception on COVID. They were very helpful to the tune of £2,500. But every lesson has a price, doesn't it?
Well, that's like speeding, isn't it? Once you speed, you get attention then, and then you don't do it again until you relax into it again, do you?
You don't know it's wrong till someone tells you.
I know.
No, they were very good, to be honest. We had to write, well, I personally had to write, well, I think it was, oh God, well, 9 individual COVID risk assessments for each individual area of our business and have them assessed by the HSE inspector to close out one of the actions. But yeah, it all went well. He accepted them all with a minor comment, which I was grateful about. But they've all now gone into communication mode in ours now. So we have the COVID risk assessments for every individual work area, canteens, offices. So yeah, quite a big program for us. We employ nearly 1,000 odd people with many different areas in here. So
okay. And what about you, Leslie?
Yeah, we have internal SMEs within the business that I can reach out to. So we have technical SMEs, so a team of authorising engineers. So there's a specific technical area that we wanted to look at, for example. So yeah.
I mean, the big thing is fire at the moment, isn't it? With the new fire coming in.
Yeah, I was hoping. So I did put down one of the areas to look at would be obviously the Fire Safety Act. And we do have a fire SME, and he's just actually left the business. And he's really good. So I was hoping that we'd be able to get him on board, but obviously he's no longer with us. I'm not sure when his replacement is going to be in the business, but yeah, that's something again that we could look at.
Okay, so if you can think of a subject around this, etc., whether it be behavioural or anything else like that, stakeholder management from your perspective, from an FM perspective, and then we can talk you through this Zoom form that we have to submit, and Paul will talk about, well, hang on, if we can aim a bit higher, or whether it's a very basic presentation, a very specialist one, we should be looking at that as well. And that's why I was looking at Will with regard to shipbuilding, because that's a very specialist area in itself, isn't it?
We've just Les, we've got Leslie, sorry, we've got a big joint exercise coming up with Merseyside Fire and Rescue on the 22nd of June. We work with them quite a lot, but I have a lot of contact with their senior management. If you're looking for any technical support or advice on the new changes to the fire regulations, we get a lot of support from them, and also training and familiarisation. We bring them in every couple of weeks to familiarise them with all our vessels and yard and everything, and changing dynamics that we have in here that constantly happen every day. So, I mean, that would be the fire and rescue services and HART, the Northwest Ambulance Rope Access Confined Space Specialists. We deal with them as well. So I have all their training contacting providers and their technical support contacts. I mean, I could always ask one of them, they'd be quite happy to come and or to do something for us in the way of technical expertise and fire and rescue, emergency preparation and response, and also on many other things that they do. They help us out, advise for our fire risk assessments and everything. So I could always ask for some presentations of them, or some just general speaking and that they seem to do.
Yeah, that would be good. We're also partnering up with Hampshire Fire and Rescue as part of a primary authority partnership as well. And I don't know whether that could be a potential subject as well, is the about primary authorities and that whole engagement piece where they can give you that assured advice. So currently with our food safety management system, we're partnered with Salford City Council. So we've had our COVID risk assessment assured by them, and that's on their website. And we're looking to do the same with Hampshire Fire and Rescue for our fire safety management system as well. So that, again, I guess that whole primary authority thing could be a future topic as well.
Brilliant. If you can think of the speakers and then, you know, just bring it to this meeting or email me, I can then put it on the list.
Tony, where are you a bit weak in subject? You know, do you want some more technical stuff, or are we overloading that? Where do you think?
Well, we'll always overload with technical, won't we? Because that's
Yeah.
the nuts and bolts. It's the soft stuff that we really, because when Will talked about changing people's perceptions, I'd love a talk on changing managers' perceptions. How can you get managers on board from a behavioural side?
The ABC model or whatever like that.
I would love to have a presentation on that. You know, what are
Do you
their
know what?
values?
Yeah, there is like, you know, there's like Tim Marsh, and there's the
Yeah.
people who charge for speakers, you know, the people who fell off a roof, and like Jason Ankler and stuff. I'm just wondering if there's anybody who's not had a workplace fatality or workplace injury and in a wheelchair or anything that could maybe bring to the party and proven techniques, you know, because there is people who obviously write books on behavioural safety and giving you tools and psychology and stuff like that. I wonder if it's maybe we just have a bit of a hunt for the next committee meeting, just try and seek out one of these companies that, you know, are going to petrochem or nuclear and charge a fortune and then implement the program.
Because Tim Marsh did the presentation for us once, and he doesn't charge, Tim.
Oh, does he not? He's great.
No, and he's really, really good, Tim Marsh.
Very engaging, isn't he? Should we try for him?
Yeah, I'll have a word with Tim, see if he could do that. I'll make sure I've got his email address.
Well, he could plug his new books, you see, because he's written about 4 or 5 new books. I've got a couple of them I've read, and they're quite very interesting, like Billy Basics of what he does, really. Because he did team up with Jason Ankler, didn't he, to Tim Ryder Marsh or something like that, where they were coming in as a tag team. But I think if we get him, that'll really give us the psychological side of why people do what they do, don't they?
Yeah, and what we could do then, I don't know. If we get someone like Tim, I think we're going to get more people coming along then. I really do, because he's such
engaging.
Yeah. So, but yeah, when you talk about that, the behavioural one and the core one, the strategy, the policies, planning side, leadership and management, etc. We've done none on that at all, you know.
Do you think there's one maybe for, I know with technology and stuff, I know it's technical linked into behavioural, but you know, you got these like AI systems now that actually flag up people's unsafe behaviours and then feed that back into, you know, almost like they're trying it in construction a little bit at the moment with view to almost like wearing personal monitors with cameras watching you with a view to doing unsafe acts. There's a couple of people I've seen advertising the technology. I know it's technology, but it comes back to behaviours. I've got the fingerprint guy in the background. He's ready. I've tapped him up, ready to go. Yeah.
I mean, anything like that, Carl. If you could just let us know.
Okay.
We can put it down on that future suggestions, and we can keep on returning to that.
I'll give you that
So
fingerprint.
from your side, you've got the noise in the workplace heritage. Are we on for that? August?
Yeah.
And the intelligent fingerprinting, ROSPA.
Dave Ford. Yeah, I've got noise in the workplace. Already booked in with. That is Julian from Peritus. That one. For the 24th, Tony.
It's what's
it's not Heritage Health. It's Julian from Peritus down below. See on your list down below.
Right. Yeah.
You go future events possibly. Right. Put it down really for October. I'll organise for this guy from. It's a guy called Josh Klein Davis from Intelligent Fingerprinting. This is the drug and alcohol thing that's come along. So it's the company's called Intelligent Fingerprinting, and they do drug and alcohol testing by your fingers.
All right. Okay.
Oh,
so
sorry.
August, 10th of August.
Hang on. Sorry, you put Julian down for the 10th. Sorry, I messed you up a little bit there.
No, go on. So where do you want intelligent fingerprinting?
Yeah, put him down for the 26th of October, and then just bring Julian back to the 10th of August. I've already got him booked in, you see. Sorry about that.
Realise I'm an old man.
I know.
But while we're talking about meetings in October, it could be that we'll be slightly out of this COVID mess then.
Yeah.
Are we talking in terms of face-to-face meetings, or are we still talking about Zoom?
No, there's no face-to-face meetings this calendar year.
Okay.
That's part of the event strategy. Everyone's had that information. So yeah, nothing until earliest 2022.
Right, got that.
I'm going to just sort of just drop in on this one, just slightly on this. Obviously, don't want to interrupt any conversation, but I have started to put together, based on Tony's great work in terms of this sheet, a sheet that covers all of the branches within the region. So what I'll do is I'll give you access to that sheet. I mean, I can show you very briefly now, but what it will show you is how you sort of fit in with the rest of the program that's going on. So I know you're talking about maybe having other competencies that you're going to try and cover off. Well, it might be that some of that program is being delivered elsewhere. So don't be too worried about doing too much technical stuff, because like you say, I think it's important you do. But if others are picking up other elements of the competency framework, then that might suffice, because again, we are working more regionally now. So let me just really briefly just show you the plan. Sorry, Tony, I'm going to end up.
Are you going to unshare me?
No, you're okay. I'll do it. I'll do it. It's fine. So on the screen is June, July, August, September, October. Everybody see that okay?
Yeah.
It's just by branch. So you'll see effectively it's the same sheet that Tony's been sharing with you just, but it's for the branches within the Western Wales region that I look after. So over June, you'll see that you have got in the categories you've got, I think today, did you say, how did you classify that category today, Carl? Was it health and safety law, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, I would personally.
Okay, well that's absolutely fine. So we can change that, because they're simple drop-down menus, so we can do those. But as you can see, South Wales are looking at a mental health and business, and then South Midlands are doing a chain of infection. So there is a number of different competencies that will get covered across the region. And there are a number of topics, obviously, that they're looking at doing. So in order for us to try and be a bit more coordinated, a bit more structured across the region, and we try and avoid duplication, I think we kind of, as we go forward, this is a sort of evolving piece. We'll start to see where we fit in as the Merseyside branch into the rest of the programme that's being developed as well. So I'm not asking you to kind of absorb all of that information now, more about this is kind of how we'd kind of like to work going forward. We've got a regional chairs meeting happening on the 25th of June. We've already had an initial meeting, but again, I'll feed more of this information back through Michelle and she can bring it back to the committee. But as I say, you are leading the way yet again, because this is really a similar shape of a document that you're already using. It's trying to encourage the others maybe to work similar to the way you're working in terms of your planning. Just below that, obviously, I've started to accumulate some of the potential branch events, which are, I know you've got a whole host of different things there you've spoken about. But again, I'm trying to just pull together that so people can sort of see what the others are kind of potentially thinking about covering. So you'll see, I think, a lot of yours at the moment, some West Wales ones, some South Wales ones around machinery safety, etc., keeping safe in winter. So yeah, we'll bring that together, but I just wanted to make you aware that that's kind of the things that we're starting to look at as well.
Brilliant.
Sorry, back to you.
How do we promote these, Paul? Because I'm still unsure. I get emails from IOSH now and again, but how do we promote them so we know which ones we can join and we can promote to our members, etc.?
Well, you can join all of them. Basically, all the virtual meetings are open to the whole of the membership. So they will go on the website. Yeah, they will go out through Connect Diary. So you'll see all of those meetings are in Connect Diary, and you'll get that sent to you directly. So you can join any meeting. You don't have to be a member. You don't even have to be a member of IOSH to join. You can be a non-member. That's absolutely fine. We'll capture that. But in terms of our program in the region, which we're all kind of building towards, well, I think we perhaps do need to start to have some cross promotions. We need to use the others in the network to maybe promote those. And there might be an opportunity where we can actually run some things together. So again, we're looking at using each other's members in order to bring together something. Certainly one of the most obvious ones to do would be things like the legal update. Yeah. If we're going to do something like that in the next calendar year, let's do that as a region and let's promote it regionally. Potentially, I mean, I'm only throwing these things forward. I mean, you guys are there for that, to develop the program, not me. I'm just here to cajole and shape it and move it towards where
the legal update in September, don't we, Pete? That's the
that's traditional, yeah.
That's
Yeah, and
ridiculous.
again, if you want to lead on that and have that, that's absolutely fine. That's where we can align it back together, and we'll bring the others closer back together. If it's very specific for your region or your area, then that's absolutely fine. But if it's a more general one, I think perhaps we look at that as a collective and we deliver that. And the same where we start to duplicate topics. Do we not look at those and maybe run those as a regional event as well? And just going back to Peter's point about physical meetings, once we do move into 2022, well, actually, again, how do we then really maximise those physical events? How do we go and make sure they are value for money? They do really reach the members as we want them to, and that might be working together with the others to run something in a more coordinated way.
I mean, I don't know the power of virtual meetings, but is it possible to have both at the same time? So the
Yeah, all of that's possible. Yeah, all of that's possible. As I say, I think we need to be creative when we go back to the blended approach in 2022. We need to really look at that, because we're not going to just go back to how as we was. That's just not going to happen. But what we will go back to is a blend of some virtual, some physical, with some virtual elements potentially. People could join, people could ask questions and be part of that. I'm part of it. So whatever you want to look at, but I think we need to make that case for a physical meeting. Why does it need to be a physical meeting when actually we've got a virtual offer that we could run that way? So it's just about building that case, isn't it?
It's all the sandwiches at the village. That's what it is. Lunch.
Well, if you want to put that in the form,
Right,
then I'll try and bat for that and say the reason they want a meeting is because they want sandwiches. I might be a tough sell.
IOSH magazine and we get free sandwiches, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, chips and butties.
That's
It's
it.
a
That's what it's all about.
Yeah,
isn't it?
well,
It's your mum to get together, it's safety world, isn't it?
again, if we can put the case together why a physical meeting done that way is going to be offered, is beneficial to members, then that's absolutely fine. We've got no problem with that, and that will come again in 2022. No doubt about that. But again, we are looking at that based on a regional portfolio, because the funding comes across the region, so we need to access that. That's why we need to build a case rather than why do we not do it somewhere else, for example.
No such thing as a free lunch, guys.
I've already had my manager moaning about the £160 membership. Why are we paying that?
You get a magazine for it and you get a chartered safety practitioner. What's wrong with it?
I know, Carl. But...
Hey guys, I'm going to have to disappear. There's something else pressing coming up.
All right. Speak soon about Joe.
Sorry?
Speak soon about Joe.
Yes.
Great.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.
See ya.
I've got to go for just one last thing. Is Peter gone? Has he?
Yeah,
he's got his camera off.
Yeah.
Just
he's still on the call though, Tony.
Hey.
He's still on the call.
Was he? Okay. Right.
Anything on the programme?
Give me the question. What's the problem?
Nothing, Pete. I was speaking about you, not to you. No. Speak soon. Gone? Where you going, Pete? I can never work this bloody thing, Yeah? Paul, you there?
Oh, yeah.
Hey. No, it's just that very quickly, I don't know whether you're aware, but IOSH have got this President's Distinguished Service Award coming up. And our past chair, Scott, and Vice Chair, Keith, have both been put forward for it. Peter's asking that Joe gets put forward for it as well. And just for the information of the members of the committee. And I think that if anyone deserves it more than anyone, it's Peter, who's been with IOSH since inception. I think health and safety on the roads was then horse-drawn carriages when he first joined. But it was, me and Michelle and Andy need to get together to see how we're going to do this, because I was speaking to Paul before, and I think, it's about that meat to the bones. And I think for Joe and for Peter in particular, we've certainly got enough meat to put on those bones, etc., and without undermining the process. And it's just for the information of the committee that these things are going on, so that you're aware, etc. Okay. Anything else? Did you say you want to have a look at the programme again, Paul, or are we happy?
No, just wondered whether you'd finish your discussions on it. But so I'm happy to sort of, to start to really kind of blend that in with the programme that's going on in the region as well, and we'll make sure you've got visibility of that, because it might help you decide in terms of what you're planning to do. If you can see another branch is potentially doing something similar, either joining up and doing something together, or actually maybe slightly amending and doing something slightly different, and vice versa. So I'm really keen that we do bring those together.
Meeting.
Yeah, I'll send you. I'll share it. What I'll do is I'll share it. Remember, so
isn't Michelle doing that with the chairs of other groups as well, around the northwest, like a peer meeting sort of thing?
Well, it's the region, Carl. That's what we've had. We've had one meeting so far. So the region covers, so everyone's aware of that. The 3 Welsh branches at Merseyside, Bristol, South Midlands, and then the Isle of Man. So there's 7 branches within the regional portfolio that I look after, right. And that's what we've brought together so far is the chairs, just for initial discussion on how we're going to look at that, primarily around the regional fund, because we have got a 30k fund we can use in this financial year, but we need to access that as a region. So again, we're going to have to coordinate with each other to understand how we're going to draw down that funding. So that's why the chairs were there. But in the next meeting, I'd like to bring the comms coordinators together as well, because again, I'd like to sort of see how we can help each other to support promoting each other's events, because I am conscious of there seems to be a bit of a drop away on some of the virtual meetings. I don't know if people are just perhaps getting a bit fatigued by the amount of meetings that they go on, with work, etc., and then coming onto others, it might just feel the same. So I think we need to be really conscious of, if we are going to put the virtual programme on, that we are doing everything we can to promote and advertise that as widely as we can, because we do have a membership, remember, across the world of, in excess of 48,000. If we are only getting small numbers attending, it's difficult to make that case to continue in that fashion.
What branches would you recommend that we'd be good to pally up with in terms of numbers? Is anybody out there that you sort of think? I know we talked about the Welsh branch with Scott.
Well, that's the recommendation that we've got, really, is that in a region we start to work together in that region. Yeah, so Merseyside at the moment is classed as being part of that portfolio. So I would suggest us working together to try and do that. But we can obviously look at the sector groups as well. So if we've got something that's aligned to a sector group, we can ask them to cross promote it to their. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that has been really successful. So I mean, Leslie mentioned fire. Well, obviously the fire risk management sector group. They're always good to link up with for things like that. So we can definitely
double your numbers as well, don't you, in terms of
yeah, very much so. Yeah, and I think they have got large numbers in those sector groups. So we need to look at that as well, definitely.
Okay, is anyone just one last thing, talking about legal update. I didn't see anything on the legal update on your list, Paul. Can I ask one of the new members to chase up someone for our legal update, and I'll give you the details. It's someone called Dowie Thomas from Waitman's who normally gives us this.
Oh, it's great, Dowie, isn't he?
Yeah, so is there anyone volunteer to give us a handout from the new members?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I'll give you his email.
Okay.
And you've got the Excel sheet there. We normally do it around about September.
Right.
So if you could fit in with him and just organise with him. And I'll give you his email address, Dowie. He's a lovely fella.
Great, brilliant.
All right.
Okay, is now a good time to resign?
No.
No.
Probably not.
You're the new.
You're not ex-army, are you?
Oh, yeah.
I haven't volunteered for something. I tell you.
I'm the new tea-boy.
You've got loads of experience to pass on as a new committee members, you lot.
Always eager to please.
Yeah.
No, what I think we should do as well is, Tony, I spoke to Andy about this, really, is divvy up the year. I know we do like 2 a month now, whereas we've got new committee members, we've got quite a thick committee now in numbers. Say we did 1 event per year and we had 10 people, and we're active over 10 months, is allocate one person per month. So I'm not saying the committee members don't do anything. So I think even though they got, like, from that, Clive, from your point of view, really, if we said to you, look, can you look for something in, say, late August or September with your expertise, you know, and bring to the table, would that be all right with everybody as new committee? And just, you know, I'm not saying like Andy's pulled us out of the mire in the summer months by pulling a few bits together. I pull a few bits together. I don't mind doing it, but I think it's like shared responsibility, if that's okay, around the committee. You know?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I'm right up the wall at the minute in terms of work, but by all means. I mean,
when you get a breathing space, really. When are you?
Well, I was just going to pick on that one through that Williams picked up on. Tony, you know, the guys from Waitman's I know quite well. So William, if you're struggling to get that sorted, let me know, because I know Dowie very well. He's a person. He's a bit of blue.
Oh no.
What city?
No, I don't follow football, so I'm neutral.
All right, lad.
So who's actually doing it? Are you doing it, Clive? Seeing as you know Dowie, or
You'll need to get in touch with Dowie, Will.
Yeah, I would say if you know him, to reach out to him. Yeah, that'd be sort of cold call for me, wouldn't it?
Tony, remind me of the date, mate.
Well, if we look at September and we make it the late one in September, oh shit, that's the intelligent fingerprinting.
I'll change that intelligent fingerprint. It's fine. Just go with that.
Okay, 21st of September, please, Clive.
Okay, I'll get in touch with Dowie then, mate.
Okay.
Is that message from Leslie about I was on IOSH North East call, 400 people plus attendees, including outside UK.
Yeah, that's good. Was that today? Was it?
Yeah, it was immediately before this meeting. I attended. It was fire safety, so I don't know whether it was the subject matter that drew everybody in, but I remember thinking it is a huge attendance, and there's people, you know, saying hi from India, hi from all around the world. So yeah,
absolutely. I think the topic is always really popular. I think we ran one with North Wales. We had nearly 2,000 registrations. And we could only hold, I think it was 300 on the platform at that time. So we tried to run it in 2 sections, but that was because we cross-promoted it with the fire risk management group. So once you do that, you do draw in big audiences. So I'm not suggesting it's always about big audiences, because again, you want to make sure that you're providing good content to your members. So we're not just going to chase numbers, but the numbers you mentioned in there, I think are significant and are achievable. So it's just about us coordinating that perhaps a little bit with the topic.
I've got to go now. So
yeah, me too. Yeah.
Any burning issues?
No, I'm fine for me.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks, Paul, for organising everything.
Always a pleasure to see everybody, as always, and thanks for your input. And we'll see you at the next.
Have a good week.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye. All take care.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye-bye.